What's going on, everyone? This is Brian Downard, and we are here with Laptop Empires episode number 6. I've got my good friend Ash Kumra here today. Ash is an award winning entrepreneur and speaker. He's actually been recognized twice by the White House for an entrepreneur who's making an impact. So he's a really, really smart guy, and we are going to be talking about how you can overcome fear in your business and life, because fear is literally the number one thing that is holding most people back from achieving their dreams and their goals. Ash is going to be sharing some really, really great and actionable information, tips, and strategies that you can use to overcome and avoid fear, and then things you can do to have more positive energy in your life. So I'm really excited for this interview. I want to encourage you guys to stick around to the end so you can get all of the great information. Otherwise, I will see you behind the webcam. What's going on, everyone? This is episode number 6 of Laptop Empires. I've got my good friend Ash Kumra here today with me. Ash is an award-winning entrepreneur, speaker, and he's won actually 2 different awards from the White House, been recognized twice as an entrepreneur making an impact. So he knows a thing or two about starting and growing businesses. And what we're going to talk about today is fear, and not letting fear get in the way of growing your business and your goals. So Ash, welcome on the show. I'm really excited to have you here.
Hey, really happy to be here, man. I love what you're doing. If anyone understands social media, branding, and marketing, it's definitely you.
I appreciate that. I really do. And listen, I think you've met so many incredible entrepreneurs, and not only been able to interview them, but also met people who are just starting out. And I think what we should start off talking about is why you think fear is something we should talk about and something people should be talking about in entrepreneurship.
I think fear is the thing that can set you back more than anything else. That's simple. Fear is the thing that tells you, should I raise money and get the money? Or fear is the thing that says, we're not ready to go live yet. Fear is the thing where it's like, I don't know if anyone will use my product. Fear is the thing that could hold you back from just frankly going after whatever it is that you want to chase. So the more you are aware of this thing called fear, and the more you can opposite it and be more about just I can versus having fear, you'll be a better entrepreneur. It's that simple.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I think it's funny, even as entrepreneurs get into the space, fear can take so many different forms, in big and small ways. And I'm sure we'll dive deep into all of this here in a minute, but just a personal example, getting into social media for me and building a personal brand, I was really fearful of being judged by my friends and family, especially in the beginning when you don't have much of an audience and you're just kind of talking to no one. That fear can hold you back from doing the things that are going to level up your business or get you to the next level, regardless of where you're at.
I agree with you, man. I think fear is not something that you can be cured. Fear is just something where you have to constantly be reminded that you can do everything. And there's ways to overcome that fear if you do certain habits and rituals and examples and things which you can talk about. But yeah, fear is so important to just take out of your vocabulary completely. And the more you do that, the better entrepreneur you'll be.
Where do you think that fear comes from a lot of the times? Is it just insecurities we have as when we're growing up? From your perspective, where do you think that comes from?
I mean, look, I'm not going to be like a psychologist and give you a Sigmund Freud answer, but I can say that it's safe to say that your upbringing has had an effect on what you think and live and do. There's factors such as I think the cousin of fear is the word failure. And when you think that failure is wrong, or that you can't learn from it, or it's not something that can grow you, then you become fearful of not having that same incident happen again. I think fear also comes from, times when you feel like you're alone and you feel like you can't be vulnerable. So once you embrace the fact that you need to be alone sometimes, it's alone at the top, as some people I've met that have said, or lonely at the top, I should say, or learning from an experience is not actually failing. It's a learning thing. Move forward. Let's keep going for it. Those are the kind of ways you can get over fear.
Yeah, I love those. Are really great examples, and I think I feel very fortunate. I had a great family who really told me I could do anything and proved it to me through their actions. But then even in sports, in basketball, I played a lot of sports growing up, and in a small way, I think losing in sports prepares you to be okay to fail and understand that failing and losing is part of the process if you want to be better. And the people who are on the top of their game and where some people want to be, they failed more times than we can count to get to that point.
I would actually disagree to a point. I would actually say to you that people that are successful in sports or in business or in any aspect of life where they're overcome fear, they don't have the word failure in their head. They eliminate failure completely. It's like it's not even a word in their vocabulary. I think they look truly as things as learning experience. Because think about it. If you grow from it, if you can tell someone about it, or if you likely don't do it again or are more self-aware to not do that same thing again, you have grown from it. So therefore, it's not a failure experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, I feel that way on a subconscious level almost, because in my businesses at least, I laugh sometimes and say, I failed my way into some level of success because my businesses some that I've started haven't worked, but it's that I forced myself to do them and, on that journey learned what I needed to do to get to where I am. And if I wouldn't have taken those chances in the beginning, and you're right, whether it's calling it failures or lessons learned, however you feel about it personally, not just you specifically, but for the viewers also, it's really about overcoming it and being okay with whatever you want to call it, failure, learning, and embracing it. And a lot of people talk about that, but it's a really weird kind of feeling when you actually do it and you're okay with that failure, and you don't even, and again, I'm using failure, and again, you're saying these people at the top, they eliminate that from their vocabulary, but maybe a small loss, you can look at it, or whatever you want to say. So it's really helped me level up my game, I think.
Okay, sounds good.
So tell me what you think people are most fearful of. I know it's probably different for everyone, but if there's a big one.
Yeah, I think they're just fearful of perception. I think the biggest fear is what people think about them. But in reality, no one really cares about what you do. They care, are you happy? So when people realize that, they'll stop caring what other people think.
Yeah, it's funny that I had this conversation with Jeremy Montoya in a previous episode or show, and we were talking a little bit about fear getting in the way of you doing that stuff. And what he said, and it really kind of resonated with me, is we're just not that important. People who passing by in the world, they're not going to look at us and care that much about us. It was a really interesting perspective. Unless they're in our industry or we want them to know us, they don't really care. We're not that important to them. The passerby on the street or the person who sees your post on social media and judges you for that half a second. It doesn't matter. We're not that important. So I like that perspective. And maybe that changes as you get bigger and more people put you under a microscope. But I feel like in the beginning, when you're first starting out, that's a good way to look at it. It's like, why do these people even care about me? That shouldn't hold me back. Who cares what they think? Because they're going to think about it for a second and then move on with their life.
Yeah, I would agree.
So what, in terms of entrepreneurship specifically, when you see, maybe we can start with people who are just starting a business, what do you see people most fearful of when they first get into business? Failure being one. Any other barriers you see that hold them back?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've always said this to people. You do a business for two reasons. One of two reasons. One is you do it to fulfill some trend, like, okay, Snapchat, as of this interview, today, Snapchat went IPO. So you want to build a business because, millennial social media behavior is hot, so I'm going to create an app for it. That's just because Snapchat proved it. Or I want to create something to help millennials because I either am a millennial or I work with millennials, and I notice that they're not getting enriched in a certain way, so I want to help them and empower them and make money helping them, which isn't a bad thing. When entrepreneurs do the former, which is going off a trend or something where they're not truly fulfilled or passionate, they're full of fear because they don't really know what they're getting themselves into. But when you're passionate and you have a purpose, yeah, you get scared. Yeah, you might get fear sometimes, but it's very short, meaning you always heal.
Yeah, I love that. That's really great advice. And, it's a good transition into our next question, because that's a good example of what people can do. But what strategies do you have for people for overcoming fear?
I really think the more work you do on yourself, the less fear you have in your life. And this isn't personal. This isn't business. This isn't any aspect of your life. Self-awareness comes from things like meditation, journaling, asking yourself, what's my purpose? Connecting with like-minded people. Like, I'm a fan of masterminds. I'm a fan of connecting with similar energies that want to do good things. All these activities make you realize that you're not alone. And when you realize you're not alone, I think that eliminates a lot of the fear that lingers.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too, and we talked about this in previous chats, But entrepreneurs who are in the gray area of kind of starting their own business but transitioning
Yeah.
away from their friends and family who might be doing different things or feel differently, I think it's when you become most fearful is when you are alone and you're in that gray area between starting the business and not knowing people in your industry, but then your family and friends don't really fully support it, or they want to, but they just don't fully understand. And I think I agree. What's helped me overcome that is finding a community and then just forcing myself to go meet these people. Again, interviews like this with people like you. I'm going to be at the Traffic and Conversion Summit in San Diego next week. So,
Nice.
yeah, surrounding yourself with the people who you want to not only be like, but who have that mentality and are fearless and have overcome things you're trying to overcome helps you do that too.
Yep.
So, what do you think people should avoid? If there was something you could just pinpoint that, um, I guess makes fear worse or, amplifies fear, what should we avoid?
Anything
Negative
that's
energy for
toxic.
sure.
Yeah, toxic energy, toxic food, toxic people, people that don't believe in you, and you choose to have them dictate your life or influence you. Just anything that's toxic. Yeah,
I'm curious. You said toxic food there for a second.
oh
How much
yeah,
and maybe not just food, but other aspects of your life, spirituality, I mean your health, your diet. How much of a role do you think that plays into fear and overcoming fear?
I think fear comes when your immunity and your lack of self-awareness comes. And I've found, and this isn't scientific, this is just my own views.
Right.
When you eat a lot of toxic foods or things that are like destructive to your body, that energy or those nutrients affect the way you think and affect the way you move, and they make you more vulnerable to like being susceptible to toxic energy. I've noticed
Yeah.
that.
It's funny you say that. I've noticed more, and I don't even know why it's maybe recently this year, 2 years, maybe I'm just running more. But as I'm running more and doing more exercise, I notice I'll have a
Yeah.
beer or two the night before. There's nothing wrong with a beer now and then, but
Yep.
I seriously notice a difference in my stamina, my ability to stay motivated and focused just from a beer. And then if you have like a glass of whiskey or two, the next
Yep.
day it's like your energy is just zapped. So it's almost like not even being a cool thing anymore. It's almost like, where you're at in your life, what kind of energy do
Yep.
you want and want to have? And ask yourself if drinking's really worth it, because in most cases it's no.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you, man. I'm not for drinking or not drinking in this conversation, but
Right.
if there are some toxicities in some alcohols for people's body types, that's just a medical fact. So be mindful.
Yeah, and I mean, again, alcohol is just one example, but not, finding time to give back or whatever you do spiritually. I think, because you get so consumed in business, and when things aren't always going your way, which likely they won't, it's easy to become consumed and have negative energy around that when you don't have other positive things in your life.
I agree.
Cool, man. So let me ask you just one more thing. What else would you say to a person who's fearful of starting their own business or taking their business to the next level? What would you say to that person?
I would say that get over it, because you will go through obstacles and it's okay and you're not alone. And if it doesn't, whatever comes in front of you will actually make you stronger in the long run. So don't look at it as a setback. Look at it as an opportunity to grow and improve.
Yeah, like what threshold are you? Each time you reach a certain threshold, you can kind of get past that point. And I know you know who Tony Robbins is, of course. I just bought
Yeah.
his new book, and he's been
Okay.
going on tour talking a lot about that. But some of the examples he uses in the book, where at one stage in his life he needed $50,000 to keep his company running, and so he figured that out past that threshold of pain. Another time he was on the hook for like $10 million, past that threshold of pain. Then later in his life, some billionaire partners went broke, and he was on the
Yeah.
hook for $120 million, but he had to go
Wow.
speak to a crowd of like 1,000 people at a seminar, and he was like so sick in his stomach. And it's that you reach these levels of pain or these thresholds, and you can get to that, and if you can get past that and get to the next level, I mean, you can just prove to yourself you can really do anything.
Cool. I agree, man. Good
So,
advice.
so I love that. Yeah, I'm excited to read that book. And Ash, listen, I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, so why don't you tell people where they can go if they want to learn more? Maybe you've got a link to a resource or something people can check out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'd love to, anyone wants to connect with me, send me a note, ash@youngry.com. That's Youngry, ash@youngry.com. My current venture is Youngry.com, entrepreneur media platform that just provides great entrepreneurship content. So www.youngry.com, www.youngry.com basically. And connect with me. Find me on social, Ash Kumra Inc. on Instagram and Ash Kumra on Facebook. Thanks.
Yeah, this guy, and everyone for watching. Ash is super well connected. I mean, super nice guy. I mean, I met him at an event a few years back in Newport. We stayed in touch, and he's just one of those people I think it's really worth knowing, and you should definitely.
Thank
I want
you.
to encourage you to do that. So, Ash, thank you so much for your time, man. You are awesome, and we will chat soon. Okay.